Surprise, guys! So, we're actually doing a segment this week. You know, I planned on, or I talked about skipping it, but something I talked about in week 11.5 and kind of a little bit on my Instagram, because I put the same poll on Instagram with a little bit more detail, not as much, just because writing, I can kind of focus my idea, or when I talk here, sometimes I forget stuff. But we talked about the red versus white clones last week, and it was kind of back and forth. It was almost 50-50, but slightly leaning towards red arms when I last checked on Instagram. And when I last checked here on YouTube, it was kind of leaning more towards the white arms. And, you know, just slightly. You know, it was like 50-50, and then that one last person commented, or that other person had got that comment in before, you know, it would have been even, you know, stuff like that. So it's very, you know, it was really close, but since it looks, from what I could kind of tell, YouTube, at least it started off, a lot of people asking just to keep the white arms, and even, I think maybe one or two people did say go to red, but I've decided that I'm going to stick with, all the clones are going to stay white, and then also, I talked about a custom clone commander, which is kind of, you can get by the name of this video, a little hint at, and why I'm actually able to do a video segment this week. Now, the custom commander, his name's Commander Mav of the 339th Attack Legion. Sorry, I gotta remember that every time. Because it is custom made, or at least by me, or it's my version. I think someone else said he created his own personal Legion with that same name, but with a different nickname and a different commander. But my point being, I talked about Commander Mav, and if you've read the story, I briefly mentioned Commander Mav, but unfortunately, well, I guess I'm not going to say anything about the story, but I decided that I want to make the custom clone just for, you know, I want them for me, you know, kind of bring my vision somewhat to life, and then I thought, why not put him in the mock? I think it'd be cool to have him in the mock, or you'll figure out when the mock comes out his place in the mock, or his role in the story, but I decided that kind of this segment, as you can tell by the title, is going to be about working on that custom. So we're going to pretty much get it done. It's essentially going to be what it's going to look like outside of, you know, doing the second or like the last layer of paint, just to, you know, kind of fill it over with, and then maybe one or two ideas, because I do have a couple questions for you guys at the end. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead, you're going to kind of see how I do my customs, working on Commander Mav for Vibroblade Ridge, and then of course we'll finish off the segment with some filler brick and even a little bit of work on the cliff. Let's roll. So to start off this week's segment, I know we kind of took a break, but I think it's going to be really worth it, because right off the bat, this is what I have right now. The new battle packs came out, so I picked up one of those. We are going to go ahead in this segment, if we don't get the parts in before I upload the video, we'll definitely be working on the Commander Mav figure I was talking about in the week 11.5 update. Otherwise, I'll be keeping the rest of these other two battle packs closed. I'm going to keep getting a whole bunch in, so when the time comes, I'm just going to open up a whole bunch of them, build a whole bunch of troopers, and then we already have a whole bunch of brick for this segment, so I'm going to continue to kind of pile that up throughout the week and a half. For all I know, too, is I may end up posting a surprise segment, too. Since these did come out, I may actually just do a segment on making the custom commander. I'm not sure yet, but more likely this will come out after the week break, and this is just getting started. So let's continue out the video. So what I thought we could do in this video, one of the big things is, if you read my story, which is on Instagram, by the way, if you just go on Instagram, hashtag Vibroblade Ridge, or just scroll down through my feed and find part 1, you'll be able to kind of go through and read the story yourself. I'm working on separating it out into like a Word document, so I can either send to people or put it on an online section, just so people can read it. You guys here on YouTube if you want, if you don't have an Instagram. But it was in the story, I briefly mentioned a clone commander that I made up, Commander Mav. So what I thought I'd do, and what a lot of people from my Instagram want me to do, is to make a custom version of Mav. So that's what I am going to go ahead and do. We're kind of going to go through my process a little. Essentially, I'm going to give you the lowdown right now, starting it. My idea is I'm going to do the chest. Some parts of the helmet, which I don't know, I may go back and remove and decide I don't want to do that. Some on the leg and a little bit on the torso. I don't think we're going to do anything in the back. I think we're going to leave the back plain. If anything, we might have a stripe going up the middle of the back. Not sure yet. And then the arms I got to decide on. When you see a lot of my customs, I don't have any up here to kind of show you my example. But a lot of times I just do a line down the middle of the arm because, as we know, in the Clone Wars we see a lot that they do have the arm marking, where Lego they just do the full arm is that color, which is something I can do, or I can go ahead and put a stripe on there. So that's something I want you to comment down below. Do you want me to do full arms in Lego Lego arm red, or do you just want me to go through and put a single stripe down the middle? Slipstream, if you're wondering, the custom ARC Trooper does have the lines down the middle, not the full blue arms. But go ahead and comment that below. That's something we'll actually, when I finalize the figure in the following week, we will go ahead and that'll be the deciding factor. We'll know what his arms look like there. Without further ado, I'm kind of going to go ahead and get a little bit in my process. So let's go ahead and get customizing. So like I was saying, we're going to, oh, sorry, probably just moved the stand a little bit, maybe not. We're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of start with the painting. A lot of people, at least on my Instagram, when I talked about this, they really wanted to see my painting process. There's not a lot to it, I'm going to be honest with you. But essentially, using red, in my opinion, is one of the hardest colors to use, or was the second hardest color to use, in my opinion, from the Apple Barrel acrylic paint line. Just because it takes a little bit to get on there like the yellow does. The yellow is, in my opinion, the worst to work with, but it stains the easiest. The best way I can explain is I went about this guy wrong, but I can show you some other figures if I find them with the focus. The red just stains on there easier, at least on the white. So that's a big thing, you know. I'm trying to be careful when I do it. I have a design I want to do in my head, so hopefully it turns out nice. Otherwise, clone down the drain. But here we are. We're going to start working on Commander Mav. I'm going to start with this chest, and then I'm going to go ahead and work our way around. Like I said, whether I want the arms to be just a Lego red arm, or we want to paint a stripe on it, we'll go ahead and we'll see. But right now I have kind of my larger brush. Just because I have a bigger area I want to cover, I'm going to turn the helmet to the side just because a little less hanging over. Get a little bit of my paint. Here I have my red. I'm going to go ahead and just start painting. Now obviously that little, you know, detail, if you own any of these clones, you know they had that little kind of those two lines on the chest. Some paint colors cover up the printing more than others. And what I like about the red is it kind of doesn't. You lay it on thick and it will, and that was my stomach, so if you heard that, that's what that was. Now, for using my bigger brush too, sorry, I gotta lean in here a little bit so I can see these edges. I'm actually doing a lot better than normal. To do my detailing, I have a smaller brush. There we go, I'm kind of already liking that. So you just kind of take your time, go ahead, let's see if this will focus again. Because sometimes it doesn't look focused when I'm looking at it here. I think it's focused on my hand. Let's see if we can get the focus on the guy, we'll put it down. I think there we are, that's pretty focused. What we're going to let that sit here, in case you were wondering, go ahead and clear that off. I do use Apple Barrel acrylic paint. I use acrylic paint because it's the easiest to get rid of. If I made a mistake, I can instantly just wipe it away. But also, they remove very easily with a toothpick, which is, if you see some of my other customs, whether on Instagram or on here, I have a few, some of the detailing I'm able to get, especially if you've seen my 332nd Trooper or the Ahsoka Trooper. That's how I was able to get those helmet designs in. But essentially, yeah, I just use the Apple Barrel. Right, let's see if it'll focus. This camera is not wanting to focus for me today. But yeah, there we are. So that's what I'm using. This is the red I'm using. Really, there's only a few colors I've gone out and tried to find in different shades. That's what that's looking like, so that's going to look good. Helmet design, I'm not too sure yet, so as I kind of go through the week, we'll come back and we'll revisit the figure. But what I do want to do is I want to go ahead and I do want to paint on his knee plates, so we're going to go ahead and do that too. Kind of just going to hold the figure like that. And when you're painting yourself, it's going to be a little easier because here, you know, I want to show you what I'm doing. Where if you're painting yourself, you're only focused on what you can see. So that's kind of the nice part. And this is one of my bad brushes. See, I'm going to go ahead. Part of it, this little strand of the end of the brush that's hanging off farther than the rest. And if I get paint on it, it just is a pain in the butt because it paints like an extra 2 millimeters away from where I want to paint, but we're going to go ahead into the knee joints. Again, if it's blurry, I'm sorry. I don't mean it to be. So there's one. And again, it's not perfect because being the base coat, you know, a lot of times with painting on Lego, you got to get a base coat down so it kind of just sticks to the plastic. And the rest of the paint will kind of, when you put it on, will blend in or kind of harden on the paint you already have on there along with the plastic. So not too bad, but you can see here, again, I don't know, it looks blurry when I'm looking at it on my camera back here. It feels like my fingers are focused and not the trooper, and that's driving me insane. Try to center it a little more. Focus. Yeah, I don't know why it's not focusing. Again, it could be completely focused, and on here I'm just ranting about nothing, but there you go, that should help a little bit. It does kind of cover up a little bit of the printing on the knee, which, you know, in a way is kind of sad, in another way it's, you know, it's to be expected. Because if you are going to, you know, you do paint on your figures, there are some losses. Now, there are some people that are really good at it, so they, you know a way around it. They're detailing just great. Mine's not to that level. In all honesty, hang on, I'm going to pull this away for a second. The other thing is, it doesn't have to. Sometimes, you know, you might want it to be on there perfectly. Other times it doesn't, because, you know, it does, if it is a little scraped up or whatever, it does show battle damage. But there we are right now. There is going to be more to it. Just when I had this figure in mind, I'm thinking about, you know, what would, right out of Geonosis, you know, maybe a month or two out of Geonosis, what would the armor detailing customization looks like? As we know from the Clone Wars TV series, early on, the commanders at least had a little unique armor, so that's what I'm trying to do, like a basic version of that. Maybe take a uniform look and modify it a little bit. So there, I am going to put a stripe that goes from the midsection to the chest. Again, I don't know what I'm doing on the back. And then I do have an idea for the helmet, but I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here, or this part of the painting segment here. If we hop back into painting, that means the segment's mostly going to be dedicated to painting. If not, we'll just return to it next week. So let's move on with the next part of the video. So we just got done doing the torso and the legs. Again, I'm going to leave the arms for next week because that's a question I want you guys, you know, to answer. I kind of been saying this in each portion of the video, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the the helmet next. I just have to dump out the paint, so, you know, just the apple barrel. I always shake it up a little bit before I put it out. Since the red, you know, it is a lighter color. You know, it seems like once you get it on, it's a pretty solid color, but otherwise it's pretty light, pretty see-through, which is kind of nice. Just because, you know, you're able to get the detail area in them. But I'm going to go ahead, I use my, for majority of my painting, if it's not like a bulk, and I use this, I don't know if you're going to see it too well, but it's a, yeah, I don't know, it's, the way it's like glossed over, it doesn't shine pretty well, but it's a 10/0, 10/0 paintbrush. I got a whole packet of them. Of these, what brand are they? They're the Golden Talon, it looks like. That's what they're called. So I got a whole bunch of those. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to go in and do the helmet now. Sometimes I leave the helmet on the figure. Sometimes if I do hair or the helmet, I'll put it on something like this. So actually that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead, take his helmet off. Kind of a disclaimer too for the set, it doesn't come with this version of the clone head. I just swapped it out. A lot of my commanders and stuff, I'll give them kind of a more generic head. Or, you know, some of them, depending on if they're level-headed or not, I'll give them the, what's it called? The kind of smile. Otherwise, I'll give them like the grin, or the intense face as I call it. So I'm going to go ahead, get a little bit of paint. That's probably a little bit too much. But I kind of decided that I'm going to go in. Yeah, there we are. Oh, if you hear anything in the background, sorry, that's my family upstairs. I'm going to go ahead and do this portion. Here, I may go all the way up. I'm not sure. I want to see what it looks like before I go all the way up. Yes, it is easy to remove, like I'm always saying, but sometimes, you know, it's always easier, you know, paint less because it's easier to paint more. You know, which is kind of the truth. It doesn't always look perfect right away. You know, you're looking at it probably right now, you're like, well, that doesn't look too good. You know, it's going to take a minute. You got to let it settle. You got to let it dry. And you got to do both sides. If you are painting, you know, you are human. You're not going to... You can get as close to perfect as you want. And who knows, you may, with luck, you may end up getting it perfect. I know I don't. That's that, and I think we are going to go all the way. I'm kind of like, whenever I do a custom, I'm trying to image either, usually a Clone Wars animated clone trooper in my head. You know, I'm like, okay, what would that look like? Just because I had the most exposure to that type of clone. You know, there is a little bit of detailing in here I'm going to go through. Again, it probably might be a little hard to see on this camera, just because I don't know how it's focusing right now, but I do got a little bit of editing down there, but I am going to go ahead. I did decide to go through, come up here and do that, so I'm going to do it on this side as well. Kind of a nice thing if you're working within like the very tip in a smaller area of your paintbrush, you can kind of just keep rotating it around, and you don't have to go back for paint right away. So I'm going to pull off the side here really quick. It's funny. You can see the little misprints. Just how, like, sometimes it's not completely even. But there we go. We are going to do the fin too, so let's go ahead and kind of paint the fin. Especially for Phase 1 clones, that's usually a pretty common thing I do, because earlier in the Clone Wars, when there is marking, it's either on the front of the fin or the full fin. Just kind of go ahead and paint up that fin. Let's see. And there we go. So yeah, I was kind of happy I was able to surprise you with the segment this week. But there we are. So that's kind of what we're looking like. We may finish them up in a later segment, because this is right now just the base coat. Essentially everything that's already been painted, we'll go back and paint over. Right now I'm liking it. I'm deciding if I want to do red in here. I'm thinking I want to. I'm not sure yet. But what I do want to do is I want to go ahead and see what that stripe's going to look like down the center of the chest. And the reason why I didn't do it right away is I wanted to let this dry so I could kind of handle the chest piece that can handle this area. Because when it's wet, obviously you're going to get on your hands, and then if you, press down the side here, it's now the paint's on the side, and blah, 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 blah. I am going to go ahead, maybe not do what I just did, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wash out, the paint, or the water evaporates rather quick, like day to day quick, not while I'm working quick. But I'll notice if I leave it out for the day, there'll be a little less evaporation or absorption, whatever that happens in that bowl, because that bowl's kind of dirty and messy, and yeah. But I'm going to go ahead, we're going to really quick see what this looks like, excuse me, in the middle. We'll see what that looks like. We'll come back to it, and then we'll end off the video with a little time lapse of me building more filler brick. So I'll see you guys in the next part. So right now, this is kind of what our final, not necessarily final rendition, but our current rendition of what Commander Mav is going to look like. It's a, I got to get in there with a paintbrush. Or a paintbrush and a toothpick, edit some stuff up. It's a little basic in some areas. Some areas and some designs I don't think are going to work out to my liking. I got a couple ideas in my head. So next week you'll probably see kind of a finalized or a more, final looking version of this Clone Commander. So we'll go ahead and, I'm going to finish that up, but I did want to give you guys kind of an insight on how do I do my painting, especially a lot of the guys that follow me on Instagram and then come here and check out my videos. I know I had a couple of you asking me about my painting process, so I think this was a good little segment while we're waiting for parts to go ahead and talk about it. I think I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know. I ended up using too much paint when I did it. Oh, sorry without my hand there. Kind of in the middle. So I might get rid of that. I know I want to try to do something a little more with the helmet. Not sure. I don't want to get carried away. I want it to kind of look good. And then I'll have to use my toothpick to just go through and edit stuff up. Whether I record that or not for next week, I'm not sure. So next week you'll get a look at, or next video, really, we'll get a look at the scope, see what it looks like, or what he's going to look like towards the end. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for the painting process. Let's go ahead. We are going to, once again, do a little time lapse because I do have all that brick, and end out the video. So let's roll. As it's been for the last few week segments, I'm going to end off with the time lapse, which you just saw, and this bit of filler brick, which is great. Sorry, I couldn't think of any words right there, so I was just talking. But so we got a little bit more filler brick in. Kind of you can see where the black brick starts over there. So a whole, like, 1 2/3, 1 3/4 ish of another wall done, which is going great because this is all we have left. We have the outer wall and then 2 inner walls. So honestly, if I get the same amount of bricks as I got of these, I can get this base plate done, and we're onto the back too, which is great for filler brick wise, especially because I've been buying a few other things. That's something I'll have you comment down below, is if you want me to do a haul video of kind of a bunch of small hauls all put together. I want to say, some figures, some sets. So if you'd like to see that little video, please comment that down below. I'll bring it back, of course, in the outro. But alongside the filler brick, I got very, very small amount of rockworks done here on the cliff. It's really hard to see because like right here, we only really had, I only put in 2.5 brick segments, I guess you could say. I don't know what else. Brick layers. So I did get just a little bit done because I ended up getting some slopes from the small projects I was doing. I kind of found a nice happy median of the amount I want to use, or kind of stable to use, and I had about 1/4 of a cup of both inverted and non-inverted. So even though we have a lot more coming in the order, which hopefully should be in just before next week's segment, if not, there's a possible chance the segment I might push back to Sunday, something like Saturday or Sunday, just because it'll just work out, but we'll talk about that in the outro again more. But I was able to get just a tiny bit done. So essentially, there's like these white pillars kind of in here as support beams, and just adding more solid structure. I was able to cover up the one that was right over here, and then get half done. So that's pretty great. That's nice. Otherwise, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end out this surprise weekly segment. Let's roll. I think it went over pretty well. For some of those, who may be more into the mock side of the series, which I know, it is the building series, but as some of you may know, whether you follow me on Instagram or you've seen a couple of my videos here that I've slowly started to take down. I do paint some clones, do custom clone troopers, stuff like that. So I think it's a good. It was a good filler segment, I guess we could say. Since we were able to kind of just keep the weekly upload going, but we're still improving on the mock in some way, shape, or form. Kind of instead of throwing that in, because originally my idea was, oh hey, I started working on it, and then like 2 or 3 segments later, you might hear me talk about the character again. But kind of in preparation, waiting for the parts, we were able to do that. I think it's. I guess it's going to be either you like it segment or why did you make this? You should have just skipped this week's segment. But I think it was worth it. So we are going with the solid white clones for sure. Answer me those questions for the clone. Commander Mav. We were talking about the arms. Is he gonna? Do we want to just do a red, painted stripe down the side, or like these figures? Do we want to just have a full red arm? Please comment that below. But that's a big thing. Obviously, I am going to put that up on Instagram, but of course here on YouTube, you all get the final say. Then I was talking about how I did get some hauls that I recently discovered and went to the Bricks and Minifigs in my state, or at least in my local area. I don't know if there's more or one in my state, at least in my local area. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of like, if you've ever been to like a Brick World or a Lego convention, it's kind of like a permanent convention vendor. So they sell, sets, parts, kind of, when I say sets, or when I say parts, I mean it's just, here's a giant table full of random parts, here's a tub, fill up the tub, take it with you, type of deal. Or, sets which are, obviously, it's kind of like the pawn shop, if you guys know what a pawn shop is, for Lego only. So that's pretty cool. But I took some stuff in. I had an old Anakin's Jedi Starfighter I didn't open up. Originally, I was going to open it up and make a custom Jedi Starfighter out of it. But I don't think I'm going to get around to it, and I don't think I'm ever going to use it. So I kind of just threw it over to them, and then I got rid of another large set that's not Star Wars related that I ended up having in my possession. So I got rid of that stuff, and I got a whole bunch of stuff from that. So please comment down below if you want to see the haul from my Bricks and Minifigs adventure, as well as some stuff I got from my buddy. So I guess that's really the 2 things. Comment striped arm or Lego arm, or and if you want to see that haul video, because that would be a good Wednesday upload. I know I said I was going to start the Wednesday uploads last week. I had a test on Thursday, so I kind of spent all day Wednesday doing last minute homework and studying. So starting this Wednesday, we are going to see Wednesday uploads. I am going to hold off on the Q&As. I'm going to try to have a couple little mini mocks cranked out, as well as maybe a haul video or some other stuff. Maybe a Commander Mav showcase. I'm not sure. But that's it for this week's segment, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm hoping next week the parts are going to be in here right before Friday. If not, if they don't come in at all, we're going to skip the weekly segment, and I'll post a video saying on Sunday night the parts aren't here. And obviously we're not going to do it. Reason why I'm waiting until Sunday is if the parts come in like later Friday, I may wait and upload it Saturday or Sunday, just because I got to get that stuff done. If the parts, obviously if they don't come in, they don't come in, because sometimes, if it says it's going to be here on Thursday, really it can be here in between Thursday and Saturday just because of my area. So there's a small chance I might not get it for next segment, and if that's the case, we're just going to skip it. If not, it may be a little later, just because I'd rather get a video out like Saturday night, even though, we're trying to stick with the Friday uploads. I'd rather get a video out Saturday night saying, hey, I got the parts, let's do this, and then that will probably be a little shorter segment, and then we'll hop into, larger portions later. Otherwise, guys, that's pretty much it. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you in my next video.